a great question. How do we define quality? First of all, there are numerous different ways of defining quality, from the quantitative to the qualitative. So for example, return on equity or return on assets are just two quantitative metrics of quality. Qualitative metrics could be things like management quality or fiscal discipline or how they hire and train their staff. We look at the quantitative metrics and we focus on two factors, and that's how we link to this concept of a compounder. Those two factors are, is the company profitable in the long term? So have they got a track record of being profitable? And secondly, are they reinvesting those profits for the future? And it's a combination of the two that leads us to this definition of quality, but also a definition of what is a compounder. That's a great question, and it's a very, very key, important building block to how we build the fund. We've talked earlier on already about how we define this metric of quality. Well, not all quality companies are actually the same in terms of how their share prices behave. So what we do is we look at the different types of quality companies and we assess whether they are more cyclical and they are more defensive. If we can get the style characteristics of the company right in terms of how they perform around the business cycle, then the next step is to understand where we are in the cycle. And I would say that's probably one of the most challenging parts of the role today, is different parts of the world are in different phases of the cycle. But one thing that we can definitely agree on is that we are very, very late in the cycle. So if we look at things like credit spreads around the world, they're very tight. If we look at profits growth around the world, it's relatively scarce. It's concentrated in a small portfolio of companies. And so for us, that means late cycle, a little bit more cautiousness, focus on companies that can really generate profits in all environments, and that tends to be some of the more defensive areas of the market. And that's how we're going to be until we get to the end of this cycle. Well, first of all, the name of the fund is Carmignac Portfolio Grandchildren, so you should always be considering a long-term focused equity fund for the future. We typically believe our clients should be invested over 3 to 5 years. Right now in particular, well, what's happened this year is that we've seen the valuations of the type of companies that we invest in come down quite significantly. So for the first time in quite a while, investors can buy into a fund like ours that focuses on long-term quality compounders that grow throughout the cycle, and they can buy them at a significant discount to what they would normally. And that's just a function of how the markets behave this year. So that's one thing. Secondly, we focus on investing in companies that we think will do well through the cycle, and we'll do it in an ethical way. So the ESG, sustainable component of the fund, is one of the key parts of the fund, and I think that's the second component. So making sure that we invest in companies in the right way. And lastly, that acknowledgement that the cycle could be quite testing over the next 6 to 12 months. So as a result, having a more defensive approach gives our clients an opportunity to invest in companies that could benefit from that. And for those three reasons, I think we should be investing in this type of fund today.